Good. Hey everybody, y'all ready? I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting. And to start off, I'd like to ask Pastor Lonnie Gross from Sandy Plains Christian Fellowship and Shiloh Christian Community, both on the outskirts of Morven, to do the invocation. We sure do appreciate you coming.
It's an honor to be here. Although, to be quite honest with you, I think I'm a little overdressed. If you'd have told me they were all going to be here, I would have worn my Converse and a ball hat. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be here. Lord, we thank you for the men and women who serve here. Lord, we thank you for the young people here, the amazing athletes, Lord, and the coaches and the parents and all the supporters. I know this is a very special day to honor them, God. I pray that you would bless them and strengthen them and give them continued success, especially as they continue to look toward you for their success. Lord, I pray for all of the business that's done in here. Let it be done with your glory in mind. Lord, your word says that we can have wisdom if we ask for it. Lord, we pray for your wisdom, which is far greater than any we can ever have. For any decisions that are made, for any motions that are carried, Lord God, I pray that you would be in them, and that you would speak through us, Lord, as decisions are made. God, I pray that you would continue to bless this county. Lord, I have a tremendous burden for this county. I know that people who serve here have a tremendous burden for this county. And I know there are many important decisions to be made. I pray that you would continue to work through them, God, that the very best outcome would happen in all of those things. Father, we praise you. We give you honor and glory for everything you've done, for everything you're doing, and for everything you will do. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
This will probably be out of order, but hey.
Yeah.
Okay, you can throw me out now.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And tonight, normally we would approve the agenda first, but with the kids, and I'm pretty sure they don't want to hang around in here for too long, so we're going to go ahead and present this award to start off our meeting. Thank you. And because we have limited capacity, we're going to start by recognizing the award for the Anson Athletic Youth Association, starting with the minors for representing Anson County in the Dixie Youth Baseball World Series. They were the 2023 AAA North Carolina State Champions, which is unbelievable that y'all have gone that far, and I'm sure you had a great time in Louisiana. So we want to present you all with this, and we're going to have to do it 3 times. I apologize because we just don't have room for all 3, so if y'all don't mind coming up, coaches and the kids, come on up and I'm going to stand back here so it doesn't look...
in the back, short us in the front.
He knows that. He's But this is presented by the whole board. That's why I didn't really want to stand up here. But the whole board is appreciating y'all, and certainly you all represented Anson County really well. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's our prop.
Thank you.
If that's possible, I just don't know how they're going to fit. I mean, if I step back, then it'd just be them probably better.
Good job. Good job. Good job, Coach. Good job. I remember today.
Oh, I do too. It was good. I always ended up being the water boy. Oh, the scorekeeper. One of them. All right. Ain't nothing ever easy.
Okay.
But I did do that some, but on the other, that's
Don't you go to the beach?
Next, we're going to present the award once again to the Ozone League that also had been the 2023 AAA North Carolina State Champions and had also gone to the Dixie Youth World Series in Louisiana. So, are the Ozone? Oh, okay.
They're coming. All right.
There we go.
Eddie, Jeff, come on. Oh, come on out.
Okay.
Come on out. Come on out. Come on out.
You need me up there too, or not?
Yes, sir. Okay, good. I'm just going to read this and then I'll get out of the way for the pictures. But this is from the entire board, and we're so proud of the teams winning and going to Louisiana and representing Anson County so well. So I'm going to hand this to them. It's basically what I said for representing Anson County in the Dixie Youth World Series in Louisiana, the 2023 Ozone North Carolina State Champions. I'm just going to hand it to them, and then I'll get out of the way.
Smile me once.
Hey.
Moment of silence. Okay, now we're going to do it one more time. Okay, so if y'all send in the coach pitch team.
All right, let's go, gentlemen. Back out the same door you came in.
Coach, tell them about the record you guys got. The record you set in Little League.
Oh yeah, we set a
Tell me about
record
that
while we
record
were
set.
down there for the most runs in one inning.
Oh, wow.
17 runs.
Well,
in one
All
inning.
right. We were watching that on Facebook and we seen it looked like y'all in pretty bad shape, and then I said, dang on, they
Yeah,
turned
they
that
turned it around.
Good job, good job, Coach.
Way to go. Are all the coach pitch in now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if y'all can come on up. Coach pitch. Okay. Now it's going to do the same thing again. Since we have a capacity rule, we got to stick with it in here. So once again, thanking the Anson County Athletic Youth Association, the Anson Athletic Youth Association for all of their great work in bringing these teams along. Once again, we have another great team here with Coach Pitch. They're representing Anson County in the AA Coach Pitch Carolina State Tournament runner-up. So here I'm going to give you this, and then I'm going to step out of the way. All this is from all the commissioners, and so I'm just going to step back.
Smile, boys.
All right. And then you all get to keep that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Way to go on the coaches and the kids and the association.
Good job, man. Good job, Coach.
All right. I'll just wait just a second for everyone to get reseated. Good.
It worked out.
Now, back to regular business. So I'm going to start off by reading our ethics statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict or of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the board? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any undue participation. Is everyone good? Okay, good. Okay, thank you. All right. Now we're going to approve the agenda. Starting, I'll ask, is there any commissioner concerns that we're going to add to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I've got things mostly for information, but I'll bring those up when we get to commissioner concerns.
Okay. Any other commissioner concerns for tonight to add to the agenda? Okay, if not, I'd like to amend the agenda, if the board would agree, to move the closing of the ordinances from the consent agenda to the manager's report for further clarity as an amendment. And then I'd also like to remove the jail issue from the sheriff's appearance, since that's already been resolved. So would we have a motion to accept the agenda with those changes?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mims, seconded by Commissioner Gatewood. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the agenda passes with the two amendments. Okay, all right. Now on to the consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, less item C, closing project ordinance, which has been moved to the manager's report.
Yes, sir. Okay. Do we? Second. Motion made by Commissioner Woodburn to accept the consent agenda minus the closed project ordinances. Second by Commissioner Mims.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the Axe building project, I'm glad to see it on the agenda tonight, because that is a project that we need in the worst way. I do have a couple of questions, and I think now would be the time to ask them. Mr. Manager, when will we see the design and the site plan for the new building?
They're actually working on it now. Ms. Bird and I met with the contractor, and we made some changes to the original plan, and they're getting their architect to redesign it, and they've already done the survey work. So hopefully within the next 30 days at a meeting, you'll be able to see that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question number 2, when are we planning the groundbreaking ceremony?
As soon as we can get Chairman Brecken to stand still and agree to a date and time. He has already said, that he's willing to do it. And the one I'd like to see is not just a groundbreaking, but I want to see it a few months later when we can do a ribbon cutting.
Oh, yeah.
Outstanding. Now, regarding the cost, the $2.4 million, we've already seen that, and this board has approved it. That's the total cost for the project. But there's $484,863 that the county is responsible for. Are those funds in a restricted fund balance, or will we have to deduct them from our regular fund balance?
That's a good question. I think they are actually already in what you call a restricted fund balance. So they should be set aside, if you will. So we should be in good shape.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Chairman, those are my questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good questions. All right. So if we go ahead, and the motion was made and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the consent agenda is passed like it is. Okay, now public addresses to the board. Let me just read one quick thing and then we can move on with that. These are just things like the ethics that we're required to read. So each citizen shall be allowed 3 minutes for their presentation. Commissioners are expected not to comment on matters brought to the board during this time, but to delay action or comment until staff has an opportunity to research the subject matter and to report necessary and relevant information to all members of the board. So basically we just what it says there, don't respond back. So we would start with Mr. Keith Patterson, please.
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
I come from Greensboro, North Carolina. I moved here last year. And I came here because my family roots are here in Anson County. And I want to start off by saying thank God for being here because opportunities are great here and far in between. But I let you know that, see that sign behind it says, in God we trust? Let us believe that we're going to do what's right here and get everything in order. Because I'm watching it and I want to be a part of this. I spoke to a lot of people in this town and learned a whole lot about this place. And I think it's only fair that if you have been given something, I think that everybody should be a part of something. Don't give one that's this part, one this part, but it's all fair said and done. Everybody should have a part. You know what I mean? That's so important because a sin is a sin of greed. I understand that we all need, as one person, want to have it. And you know who you are. Well, so you got to go to sleep at night and think about, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing among my own colleagues, my friends, my workers, people in the same business I am? So I say to y'all, do what is right because God is watching you. And I'm learning a whole lot about this town. Met a whole lot of people. But I promise you, that sign says, in God we trust. Trust and believe it. Do what's right in your heart. You know what it is. If you do it wrong, it's going to be exposed. I'm done.
All right, thank you. Mr. Charles McGinnis.
Hey guys, I'm here to rumble about McGill. And what I'm asking you to do is send a letter to DEQ and request that they require a public hearing. Why do we need a public hearing? Well, because last summer, this body, I'm not pointing out names, but this body took less than a minute to decide on bringing McGill to this county without asking the locals if they wanted it or getting input from them, without even finding out what McGill does, you know, what they're going to do. What are they? They're a toxic smelling, polluting, no jobs company that's on its way to the Polkton area. They're going to set up shop less than 1.5 miles from downtown Polkton. Downtown Polkton has over 2,600 citizens. These people are going to be right in their back door, backyard. So they're going to set up shop right beside the landfill, and we already know the landfill's still got problems, and we're not addressing those. So they're going to produce odors that's going to combine with the landfill. They're going to produce toxic air, and it's just going to combine and make things even worse out there around Polkton than it already is. One of the biggest my concerns is the PFAS, the emissions. It's in the airs and the waters and everything. And the EPA is trying to set some rules to get it under control. They know it's dangerous. And McGill's going to be bringing in sewer sludge. They're going to be processing sewer sludge. They're going to be mixing sawdust with it and then throwing it up in the air. And all the PFAS it evaporates. It's going to be in the air. And we're going to have to breathe it. So back to the original request. I've got an email from Jason Watkins. He said if enough people request that we have a public hearing, he'll require one. So I'm asking you guys to send a letter to Jason and say, hey, you know, we want the people in this county to have a say-so. Because right now, they didn't get a say-so on this. And if people don't get a say-so, they're going to vote with their feet. We've lost a bunch of people who's already voted with their feet. If these people come here, more people will vote with their feet. And may I give you the information here? This is Jason Watson here, and this is where he says if we send a request, he can make it a requirement for us. So please send that letter to him and at least get a public hearing so we can at least have a little say-so. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. All right, now Sheriff Howell.
Had a jail concern on the agenda, and talking with you and talking with the county manager, we have resolved that problem, and it won't need to be addressed here tonight.
Yes, sir.
And I also have two guys that had retired. Richard, if you and Tim will come up, please.
Sure.
You want to do Richard first?
Whichever one you'd like to do.
Richard's
Sergeant
oldest
Flowers?
and most handsome.
Mr. Chair, may I
Yes, sir.
read the resolution?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Resolution honoring Sergeant Richard Flowers for retiring from law enforcement service and to declare his badge and service weapon a surplus county property. Whereas Sergeant Richard Flowers began his career in law enforcement with the Anson County Sheriff's Office in July 2001 and has served his entire career at the Anson County Sheriff's Office. And whereas Sergeant Richard Flowers' commitment and dedication to the Anson County Sheriff's Office, as well as his perseverance, service, and accomplishments in the area of law enforcement during his years of service, are hereby recognized and commended. And whereas, in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 20, Article 187.2, governing boards are authorized to honor retiring law enforcement officers by presenting the badge worn during office as well as the service weapon carried during their years of service. Whereas Sergeant Richard Flowers has served as a member of the Anson County Sheriff's Office, and his retirement from the Anson County Sheriff's Office on July 28, 2023 be acknowledged as the official date. And now, therefore, be it resolved that as a token of appreciation to Sergeant Richard Flowers for his many years of service in law enforcement in Anson County, the Anson County Board of Commissioners hereby formally exercises the authority granted by the General Statutes of North Carolina by awarding the badge worn by Sergeant Flowers in his dedicated service to the citizens of Anson County. Be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Anson County hereby declares as surplus property Glock 22, serial number CWF 478 US, to be presented to Sergeant Flowers, adopted this 15th day of August 2023.
I thank you for many years. It was good. I certainly enjoyed it here at West Serving people in Anson County. It was great. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
I can tell you a quick story about Sergeant Flowers. We both have post office box at the Lylesville Post Office, and I went to the post office one day and opened it up, and there was a big thick letter in there, and I looked at it, and it had Richard's name on it in my box, and it was from the 401k people, and his was about that thick. And then I moved mine and pulled mine out, and it was about that thick. So Richard is well off. We do not have to worry about Richard in the future.
Hey, I wanted to say one thing too, Sergeant Flowers. I just want to say thank you for all the times you helped me with the fingerprinting and all, and we worked together. So I sure appreciate working with you. Yes, sir.
Now, resolution honoring Major Timmy Watkins for retiring from law enforcement service and to declare his badge and service weapon as surplus county property. Whereas Major Timmy Watkins began his law enforcement career with the Anson County Sheriff's Office in September 1994 until 1998. Whereas in 1998, he was employed by the Wadesboro Police Department for 4 years. Major Timmy Watkins returned to the Anson County Sheriff's Office in January 2001 and served there until his retirement. And whereas Major Timmy Watkins' commitment and dedication to the Anson County Sheriff's Office, as well as his perseverance, service, and accomplishments in the area of law enforcement during his years of service are hereby recognized and commended. And whereas, in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 20, Article 187.2, governing boards are authorized to honor retiring law enforcement officers by presenting the badge worn during office, as well as the service weapon carried during their years of service. Whereas Major Timmy Watkins has served as a member of the Anson County Sheriff's Office, and his retirement from the Anson County Sheriff's Office on July 28, 2023, be acknowledged as the official date. And now, therefore, be it resolved that as a token of appreciation to Major Timmy Watkins for his 30 years of service in law enforcement in Anson County, the Anson County Board of Commissioners hereby formally exercises the authority granted by the general statutes of North Carolina by awarding the badge worn by Major Watkins in his dedicated service to the citizens of Anson County. Be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Anson County hereby declares as surplus property Glock 27, serial number SN-FKT 970, to be presented to Major Watkins, adopted this 15th day of August 2023.
I'm not sure that Major Watkins has as much money as Sergeant Flowers, but he knows where Sergeant Flowers lives.
Hey, Major Watkins. Hey, I want to say thank you, but man's got to know his limitations, so he can read way better than me, so I'm just as thankful as everyone, but he's a good reader, and I appreciate 30 years of service, I sure do. So, yes, sir. All right. Thank you. All right. Now we'll go into the appointments. The first one would be for the Centralina Development Board. To appoint, we need to make a motion to appoint Angela Caraway to Centralina Workforce Development Board.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Gatewood. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Second, Anson Ag Advisory Board. And on that one, we're going to be making a motion to reappoint Mr. Brett Harrington, District 2 Ag Advisory Board Representative in Lylesville, and to request to reappoint Mr. Jason Kiker, District 6 Ag Advisory Board Representative in Wadesboro. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Cottle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. So those two appointments, three appointments actually have been made. Okay. Now, under administrative matters, we're going to be discussing the Anson County travel policy. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Good evening.
I'm here to propose a change to Appendix A of the Anson County travel policy. The main thing that changed, we didn't change anything at the top section, but at the bottom, when you see past the non-allowable expenses, we add a section for reimbursement procedures, and that's in accordance to what the auditors require from our finance department. So we want to outline that in the ordinance because it wasn't previously listed. And then another thing that we added was if there's a county vehicle available, that they have to get approval from their department head to drive their personal vehicle. So those were the only two major changes that we added. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, one question for Ms. Ingram. Thank you for making the proposal. I'd like to know if the proposed policy has been reviewed by county department heads.
We had informed them during our department head meeting, and we also shared it with our county attorney, and then the county manager and our finance director has also reviewed it. But the department heads have not actually viewed the policy itself. We just informed them of it during the department head meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that our department heads have a chance to read and review and comment on any proposed policy changes before it comes to the Board of Commissioners. Also, I think it's important that the county attorney has the same consideration. So I'd like to table this particular discussion and allow the department heads to review the policy as well as the county attorney.
I want to be clear, I have reviewed it for legal purposes only, not for opinion or anything, but I've reviewed it.
Thank you. I would like for the department heads to review it before we review it.
So is there a motion to table for review and?
Make a motion that we table it until the department heads have a chance to review the proposed policy and comment on it.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Mims. Is there any discussion? And keep in mind now, we're meeting every 2 weeks, so we won't delay for long. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, Mr. Salzman. Manager Salzman.
Either one works.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, I think a motion was made by Commissioner Woodburn, and it did pass unanimously to ask the finance director and myself to take a look to see if we could find another percentage for monies to go toward increasing the 2.5% COLA that those employees got that obviously didn't work for the sheriff's department. We have done that, and there's a way to do it, and the way to do it would be, as I had indicated before, you could delay the purchase till next year of the mechanical lifts or mechanized cots. There's a couple of them that cost about $350,000 for our emergency services operation. The balance of the funds would have to come from deferring or freezing, if you will, filling positions that are currently vacant until the end of this year. What I'm saying is, we're not talking about freezing positions that are in the sheriff, jail, or EMS, because those operations, as you pointed out, more law enforcement oriented, and EMS, obviously we changed their schedule by adding another shift, if you will. But what I'm talking about would be, there's about 9 that are vacant in DSS, 2 in finance, which was a generalist and also a purchasing or procurement agent, 1 in IT, GIS, inspections. You had approved the position there. And then also there's a vacancy in soil and water conservation and environmental health and a health educator. If you do those, if you freeze those until the end of the year, that will give you enough, going back to the motion that's made by Commissioner Woodburn, to actually be able to provide another 7.5% increase to those that got 2.5, which would then equal obviously 10, not 12.5. So it's whatever your pleasure is.
And you say the positions that are open to be filled will be frozen until the end of this year, the end of 2023?
That is correct, and I have checked with Ms. Berry just to be sure that I was correct, but we could actually go ahead at some point in time and start advertising for those positions. I know it affects Ms. Jackson's operation because it's a number of employees there. What she had hoped, and I think a lot of folks had hoped, was that the Medicaid expansion would take effect September 1, but since the state General Assembly has not approved a budget, it's my understanding that that's been put off until sometime later this year. It could be as late as December. We just don't know yet, because the General Assembly is still in session, but they still have not adopted a budget. I'm not even sure if they've considered it yesterday or today.
I don't think they have.
From what I'm reading, they haven't. I'm getting an amen from Commissioner Caudle.
In the audit presentation that we had, in letting the LGC and those concerned know that we were going to hire 2 for the finance office, I don't know that we would want to consider those 2 positions, because having them is what's going to help us avoid having this situation again next year. We'll have a better fund balance and a better idea. So I would be concerned about those 2 positions being froze, because again, part of why we're here is because we've had many years of finance data that we're trying to gather, and we're just now starting to get close to where we know what we're doing. So I just would think that that might be something of concern.
I would concur with that, yes.
That's your pleasure. You can, I hate to say pick and choose, but that's what you would be doing in terms of as to the number of positions that I read off. If you wanted to eliminate any, then they could go ahead and be filled at some point in time between now and then, you know, as long as we get applicants that qualify.
Any
other than those 2 positions, because like I said, like you mentioned, the LGC is, you know, saying we need to do that. I was trying to think of the other positions that were mentioned. I know environmental health is one that I think the health department has a workaround for that currently.
Right.
That for the most part is working, but you know, when counties get busy, then it gets a little bit more difficult to do. But like I said, we can probably continue to make that work. And what were the other ones?
Social services.
Okay, and I know Ms. Jackson, that one position that she's been trying to fill for quite a while, but if you say we can, you know, still advertise until somebody shows up, and then we'll look at it at that point, because I think that's what's been going on. She's advertising but haven't had any candidates. Is that correct, Ms. Jackson?
That's correct.
Yes. So right now, unless I'm missing something on what the rest of the board feels like, but my thinking would be to move with your recommendation, with the exception of the 2 positions for finance.
Would that affect the percentage?
It could potentially affect a percentage, so what I would have to do is have Ms. Berry take a look at it and run those numbers. And what we did on DSS is that we know that part of those salaries are paid for by the state, so she factored that in and only used the amount that would come out of the county's budget. So if you did it, let's see, I guess you could word it somewhat, if you're in favor of it, as Commissioner Woodburn appears to be, you could say that whatever those 2 positions reduced the amount of savings, then that would be the percentage that would be afforded to those employees that got to 2.5%.
Okay. Now, I also just heard you say there's some more information that's needed. I mean, that you got to run some numbers, so I would kind of like to know what that is before we just jump out there and do it. I am in favor of it, but I want to make sure we got all the information together. And
can you have the information ready about the next meeting?
I'm sure Ms. Berry can run those numbers between now and then.
Able to the next meeting?
I'm good with that. At least we're trying to make some progress. So,
Mr. Gitwood.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment, and then I have an observation regarding our finances. The comment is, I personally have been vilified as a result of not supporting this additional COLA. I received a phone call from a citizen just last week indicating, Mr. Gatewood, why are y'all being so hard on your people? They haven't received a raise in 2.5 years. And I said, no, that's not the truth. I said, let me do some research and I'll get back to you. I did the research, and I pulled out the minutes from our Tuesday, November the 2nd meeting of 2021. At that meeting, this board approved an additional COLA for all of our employees. And that amount, as soon as I get to the right page, they will get granted 2.5% COLA July of 2021. And in December, we delivered another 3.4%, total 5.9%. The following year, this according to the minutes of our November 1, 2022 meeting, We granted a 2.5% increase in July 1, 2022, and then we gave a special 6.2% bonus. 6.2% of the annual salaries that was delivered and paid for out of COVID funds. I called the citizen back and said, I apologize immensely. I had no idea. I just told you what I'd heard on the street. Taking that one step further, I made the motion, or seconded the motion for both of these special increases, and I'm glad we did because our employees deserve it. My concern is we don't know how much money we have in the bank. As of June 30th, 2020, our unrestricted fund balance was $15.3 million. June 30th, 2021, our unrestricted fund balance, $12.1 million. 15.3 to 12.1. June 30th, 2022, we don't know how much money we have in savings. And June 30th, 2023, we don't know how much money we have in savings. So as opposed to freezing new positions, critical needs that we have in the county, I would suggest we table the implementation of an additional COLA until we have the completed 2022 audit report in another 2 to 3 months, according to the county manager. So that is my motion.
I'd like to say something first. All your research you did, everything that you just said, everybody took part of it. It just wasn't, well, this department got 2.5 and this department got 6%. Everybody took part in that. So it wasn't just that, you know, I don't know what you're trying to say, that it was fair. Because that might have been fair, but this right here isn't. That's what I mean. That's my concern with it. I'm not saying that take anything from the sheriff. Let them keep it. I don't want to take it, but just be fair to the other citizens. That's all I'm asking. And you know, you knew whenever you did the whenever you made the offer to give them 12.5%, you didn't know how much was in the fund balance then, but you took a risk and you did it. So my thing is, I know you're doing if you're gonna do it across the board. You can't do it for one department and not cover the other people, because you're messing with their morale, you're messing with their motivation. They don't want to come to work. They don't want to do the job. And just like I asked you last time, if everybody just walk off the job, who gonna run the county?
Mr. Chairman, I've made a motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, 6/27 of 2021, there was 13 employees that received raises that the rest of the county didn't get. And I'm talking about an $18,000 raise to one employee, a $5,800 raise to one employee, a $9,000 raise to one employee, an $11,000 raise to one employee. These are large pay raises that went to individual citizens of this county that are employees. I don't remember seeing the outrage here from the county employees that said it wasn't fair then. There was 16 employees.
Didn't know about it.
It was done at this.
No, and you know, just like y'all did, just like you was gonna smooth the 12.5% in, you was gonna just move that in. That's probably what happened then. They just came in here, rushed and do it. If people don't know what's going on, then they can't say anything. I didn't even know about that myself.
That's what I'm telling you.
Done
That's what happens in the county, and we're trying to prevent it. That's why we're doing our research.
Then you need to make sure you transparent. You're doing everything across the board. Right now, you ain't transparent, and you're not doing everything across the board.
One thing I'd like to say, and I asked Clerk Cannon to separate out that amount that we were going to put as reorganization for the sheriff's office, separate it out and send that separately, individually to each commissioner before we voted. So not only was it not just diluted into a 200-page budget, it was separated out in an email so you could read specifically what was going on. And so I was doing everything that I could to get that word out so people could understand what it was. Whether y'all agree with it or not, I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't, but I did do everything possible to make sure that this thing was up front. So I just wanted that to be known.
Okay, it was up front to the commissioner, but the county employees didn't know anything about it until the meeting.
Here was the letter that you were provided along with all the other commissioners that you voted on and approved.
I didn't say I didn't get the letter. I got the letter. I got the letter the day before the meeting. I got the letter, but I'm just saying the other people didn't know nothing about it. If you could have just slid that 12.5% in here and nobody would have known about it, it wouldn't be nobody sitting in the audience. They'd have been satisfied. But when they found out about it, that's when they start feeling some kind of way because they wasn't treated right. They wasn't given the respect that the other people's. No disrespect to the sheriff's office. You all are doing your job, and it's not against y'all. But if it was the same thing going against you, I would be fighting for you too. So it ain't nothing personal about that right there. It's just that it needs to be straight across the board. If you're gonna do something, do it transparent and do it straight across the board. That's all I'm saying. I don't have a problem with you tabling it or anything else. Just whenever we get ready to vote, take in consideration other people's feelings and how they feel when they have to come in here and do this job and they're not getting they didn't get but a 2.5%. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to fuss with you, cause you know what? It's all right to agree to disagree.
That's right.
Cause when we leave here, we still gonna be cordial towards everybody.
That's right.
So my thing is, that's just my opinion. It just needs to be straight across the board. If you don't have to give them the whole 12%, but just make them feel like they're important too. That's all my thing is.
And that is our full intention, as Mr. Gatewood expressed. We're going to table until our next audit is completed, which is scheduled to be October, November range. Once that's completed, we will be addressing.
Until he come back with the county man. I thought he said table.
No, Mr. Gatewood's motion
Do I need
was.
to repeat my motion?
Yeah,
Please.
repeat it.
My motion is to table implementing additional COLAs until we have completed the 2022 audit. In another 2 to 3 months, it should be completed according to the county manager. That's my motion.
Yes, I second that.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Cottle. Do we have any more discussion?
I think we still need to see the numbers that the county manager mentioned, and we need to see those in September. That's our next meeting, I guess. So, and we can have further discussion at that time.
But
my main concern is to do the best that we can to get this thing right for all employees, and I understand we need the data to do that, but I think we still need to just hear what he's got to say as far as the numbers are concerned at our September meeting, and we may have a different discussion at that particular time. I'm not against anything that Commissioner Gatewood is saying, but I don't think we need to take from now on to get our people right.
Mr. Chairman, we have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Can you repeat your motion so we have clarity?
Yes, sir. My motion is to table implementing additional COLAs until we have the completed 2022 audit report in another 2 to 3 months. That report should be available.
Okay, and it was seconded by Commissioner Cottle. All those in favor of Commissioner Gatewood's motion, say aye. Aye. Show your hand, raise your hand. Okay. Commissioners Mims, Commissioners Cottle, Commissioner Bricken, Commissioner Gatewood. The motion carries. All those opposed, say aye. Show your hands.
I'm not going to vote in favor of the motion that was just made just because of my previous statements.
Okay, so those opposed, Commissioner Woodburn and Commissioner Little Reed. So the motion, Mr. Gatewood, passes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And it was Mr. Gatewood that convinced me to go with the 6.2% from the COLA when we had that discussion. I wasn't for or against it, but he's a more knowledgeable commissioner than I, and he highly suggested that we do that, so y'all know he is batting for you.
And I'll also add this to the discussion, is that we all should have known about let me back up. I knew of all of the COLAs that we had given, the standard COLAs, as well as the bonuses that we gave in January. And I appreciate the research you did, but to me, I already knew that. The rest of the committee, well, maybe the new ones didn't know it, but the ones that were here should have.
All right. Mr. Sussman on the opioid settlement funds.
Yes, the Anson Rescue Squad. If you want me to, I'll wait a minute or two. You're ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Under the opioid settlement funds, we had an expression from Tyler Green, the chief of the Anson Rescue Squad, for some additional monies. His estimation, he sent me an email today, which really wasn't a bona fide request. It was sort of a statement that they use roughly $2,500 a year of Narcan for treatments. And so that was sort of like a request for that. If you agree to it, I'll take that to our next opioid settlement meeting. I went ahead and I think I tried to forward it to Ms. Jackson and others that are on that committee so they could consider it. One thing you need to know is he needs to go ahead and submit a report, if you will, because I talked to Mr. Diggs over at EMS. He's heading that opioid settlement committee for me, and he has not received any report as to their usage of Narcan, which he needs. So I have a commissioner that I know has talked at least once or twice to Mr. Green, and if he would, or if he's listening tonight, if he'll just submit that to Rodney, then we'll be able to discuss it at our next meeting and then come back to you with a recommendation.
So is that a formal policy of the opioid settlement that you send a report to the, I guess the EMS agency of the county?
It's the operation that has been in effect from our EMS, because we need to keep tracks of it, because we'll have to do formal reporting back to the settlement group.
Okay.
And as you know, that's that nationwide thing. There's been 2 settlements. One's still pending. It hasn't trickled into us yet, so we don't know how much we're going to get there. The other one is like over 18 years, we'll get like roughly $1.3 million. I think the second one's going to be somewhere in the same ballpark. We just don't have the exact number yet.
So at this point, what would we need to do?
Yeah, that's just a report, so there's no action you have to take right now.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
And then at the last meeting, I believe it was Commissioner Caudle had started the discussion about Anson County Emergency Services Committee in terms of creating one. And I know he's made some progress on that, but if he wants to speak toward that end in terms of where he is, that's fine. If not, then we'll keep trying to put one together.
Yes, sir. I have had initial conversations with a few members or citizens or employees of the county. I don't have anything to report as far as a committee at this time. We're still assembling the committee.
Okay, thank you. Next to last, the lead surface line inventory investigation and replacement resolution. That's a mouthful, but that's a resolution that I would hope that you would take action tonight. We've put in. This is to investigate where those lead service lines are that we have in the county. And you know, we've got some lines that have been in the ground for a long time, so there's probably lead somewhere in it. There's monies available. We've put the application in for $1 million, and this is just a continuation of that if you so desire. So if you would like for us to continue, then I need to get a motion and a second and a vote for the chairman to sign the resolution of this governing body for a continuation of an applicant. It'll be notarized by Ms. Cannon, our clerk, and if you do it tonight, then we'll send it to our consulting engineers, Hazen, tomorrow, and they'll include it in their application that we can put in together.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the resolution by governing body of the applicant.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Woodburn, second by Commissioner Gatewood. All those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, for the chairman's report.
We
I have
took something
finished.
out and put it under the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
This was the item that this actually is identified on page 7. I've discussed it with our trusted attorney, Mr. Forbes, and this is the one that's the closing projects, I believe is what it was called. Our finance department has been working hard and heavy to try to find monies. This is one that was several projects that had not been closed out in the books, if you will. The projects themselves appeared to be finished. Well, actually, one of them was a project that was supposed to take place for an economic development project that never materialized. I think that's the one that's identified as 24-inch water line project. And as you could see, some of these, the last activity was 10 years ago, 6 years ago. So all told, in the water side, it's $1,438,058.43. That would need to stay because water's an enterprise fund, so it would stay there. Then there's another $139,580.18 that would stay in the wastewater fund to go toward the wastewater plant updates. And last but not, well, it is least, $1,713.17 was the amount that was probably identified for that scattered site housing grant that would go back into the general fund. So all of it would go back into the fund balances. Like I said, most of it water, and then the second was sewer. And so we would need your motion, second, and vote tonight to be able to do that, but that would put it usable. And as you know, we've been doing an evaluation both on our water plant, and sometimes referred to as the filtration plant, and also we've been doing a similar evaluation on our wastewater plant.
So at this time, we would surely make that motion.
Yes, sir.
Well, before we make the motion, I have a question for the county manager, and that is, how did we miss this over all these years?
That was going to be mine too. And I'm going to make sure, and along the lines of that same question, am I understanding it correctly that these projects were completed? And this is the money that was left over? Is that's what you're saying?
That's my understanding, yes, sir. And to answer Commissioner Gatewood's question, it's strange to me because the auditors have not really brought it up. I guess they just felt like it's sitting there in an account to be spent, but it was nothing illegal or unethical about it. It was just there and unrecognized. And so whenever Ms. Berry, and if you'll recall, several months back you authorized us to tap into the senior advisors that provide an advisory service from the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. Jonna Sharp is one of those, and she and Holly were working hot and heavy, if you will, and started finding them and materializing them. And when they informed me, I said, and Mr. Forbes as well, I said, well, what we need to do is put them into an account where they can be expended, because right now they're like in suspended animation.
And along that same lines, I guess kind of one thing that comes to mind for me is, and I know that I know what the finance department's doing. They're getting things in order and doing what needs to be done. But if we've had this kind of money left over and it's just sitting out there, nobody knows about it or paid any attention to it. Apparently, we don't have the proper checks and balances in place whenever money comes in and it has to be spent, or we budget money and it has to be we want to spend it. But then apparently there's some steps missing somewhere is what I'm thinking. I may be wrong, but
I think you're absolutely right. And the LGC would call it a material defect because of lack of internal controls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm trying to do, is get those internal controls in place. If you remember last fall, after our two new commissioners came on board, I had a number of policies that I had the board to adopt that we would adhere to relative to fiscal policy, finance and budgeting policies. And going and rolling back, if you will, to the question earlier from Commissioner Gatewood about the funds that would be used as the county match for the AX building. They're actually ARPA funds that you've already committed, so they are restricted from that sense. But instead of coming out of the county's fund balance, it's coming out of the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, I've mentioned the possibility of a forensic audit, which sounds like a scary word, but that's where they find missing grant money and things that sometimes get off to the side. I know that's quite expensive, so we can't discuss forensic audits till we get caught up with the audit that we're getting done now. But I would think that we may want to reconsider that when we find out what kind of financial situation we're in, because that way they'll go back and they'll look for all the reimbursements that we've been eligible for over the years that we may or may not have gotten. So they won't just look at the budget as it lays in the county. They'll look at grant money that may, like this particular case, not have been used up. But a lot of times too, we get state reimbursement for funding that we put up, and maybe there's some state reimbursement that we haven't gotten. So I'm real happy that y'all found this, because that is going into the forensic category for looking for things. But as we get further along, let's always consider the need, and Attorney Forbes, you might be able to help us with that when we get our fund balance a little bit further along. Unfortunately, it costs a lot of money to get that.
It could, and I know Miss Berry did find, she went to work when I was talking with her about FEMA money that might be hanging out there, if you will, that hadn't been captured, and she has captured some of that, which is good.
And some money like FEMA, for example, if we're going back to a hurricane from 4 or 5 years ago, sometimes there'll be a time frame where we'll no longer be eligible. So that's what's kind of bad, is that some of the money that we may or may not have received may be past the deadline. So on this particular funding that we're talking about tonight with the water department, are we sure we've not gone past the deadline with that?
Oh no, we're good there. We're
okay. Okay, good.
But you're right.
Good.
There is a sunset on a lot of those, particularly FEMA. If you don't keep proper records, they just kick it out. They don't even look at it.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we would make the motion if there's one to be made for, unless there's still more discussion prior to the motion.
Unless the board has any, I'm done. I just need a motion for you to be able to do the budget amendment.
So Commissioner Mims makes the motion, second by Commissioner Little Reed.
A question, what is the total amount?
1.5.
Altogether, all of it's $1,579,352.39. And of that amount, $1,713.17 is for the general fund balance. $139,580 and 18 cents is in for the fund balance for the wastewater treatment plant, and the balance of it, the bulk is $1,438,058.43 that would stay in the water fund. And my hope is that you would approve at the time to use it toward upgrading our filtration plant.
That's right.
That was going to be my question: is do we have a plan of where this money is going to be used once it hits the water fund?
Yes, I've got from Hazen and Sawyer, our consulting engineers. Their estimate is it's going to cost at least $5 million right now to upgrade the filters at the filtration plant, and also the what's called the Super P, which just stands for the high-speed pulsating unit. And then also the flocculator, which creates a flock, which serves as a magnet, if you will, to capture the suspended particulate that comes from turbidity. The more turbid the water, obviously the more of that you have to get rid of. So those are the elements that's going to cost somewhere between $5 and $6 million. So this 1.4 million is a godsend as far as I'm concerned. Right now we are going after that $5 million that Representative Brody got us in last year's state budget. So I've got that paperwork together, and I've been conversing and exchanging emails with some of the division directors at DEQ and also OMB, and so they're aware of it. And then just as soon as the state budget does get approved, assuming they don't take that $6 million out that they're dedicating to us for sewer, we'll put a plan together. And I'm hoping that sometime this fall we can start the permitting process for the filtration plant.
So we got real good news on funding coming from the state. We're real thankful for that. So with all that said, any more questions?
I make a motion that we accept the budget amendment.
This motion made by Commissioner Gatewood to accept the budget amendment. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioners Mims, Cottle, and Woodburn. Any questions? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Okay, then Commissioner Woodburn, did you have a commissioner concern for tonight?
Yes, I guess the first thing I'd like to mention, and Commissioner Smith is not here tonight, but whenever we voted to go to 2 meetings a month, basically he said, well, what's going to be the cost? And I responded that there wouldn't be any cost, but now that we're doing it, actually there is some cost. The package and the time to put them together and then getting them delivered to us. But the other thing that, and this is not new for me anyway, but I'd like us to consider, and we couldn't do it until our next budget session, is go to electronic board packages. I think that'll be a lot easier on Ms. Cannon, our clerk, and it'd be a lot less paperwork for us to keep up with. And we use it at the community college, and it's real easy to go back to 2 or 3 meetings ago, or a meeting from last year, if you want to find some information right quick. So I'd just like us to keep that in mind and think about moving forward with it. So it's really convenient. I really like them. And then I've got a question for the county manager. I know the email just sent out about the Highway 74 East Stool project. I don't know that I saw in that, and it could be me. I may have just missed it. But is there an expected completion date for that project?
No, sir.
Wow, okay. You think you could try to get us one? This thing's been hanging out there for...
He has, I think the stumbling block has been that it is getting the approval for the aerial crossing.
Oh, I understand that, yes.
You understand, I know. And so I know they've made another request to go directly to Raleigh rather than working with Mr. Saunders. Not sure how successful that'll be. That's probably why that they don't have an estimated completion date at this time, unless Mr. Forbes has heard one.
I spoke with Mr. Kiker today, and he confirmed everything that the county manager just said, that he did ask for a letter of justification to be sent to Raleigh. They have acknowledged receipt of that letter. They're going to review it, and they will give us an answer, upon their review. That is also what Mr. Saunders with it's either DMV or DOT, and I get them mixed up sometimes.
He's DOT.
He was just not sure whether this should be an aerial crossing. He asked for clarification from higher ups. That's what he did, and that's what they gave him. I read the letter. I can send it to any of you that would like, and we also have the plans and the proposal that Mr. Kiker included with that too. I can forward that to any of you you like.
Well, we definitely have to keep in mind, and I appreciate Commissioner Woodburn, this was a 520-day contract. I mean, to me, I don't understand why it would be more than 180, and with no deadline, no penalty for late, we have to have some clarification on. I understand that they're now looking at going with the aerial pipe on the bridge there, but I think it was probably February of 2021 when I walked that right away with Mr. Saunders. I mean, this is a long time to get a little piece of pipe in the ground.
Saunders works for the state. He would not approve the aerial crossing, and that is what the holdup is now.
Yeah.
They cannot get it approved by the state.
I understand. I understand.
That's what the holdup is now.
Okay.
Does Mr. Kiker have a contingency plan if the aerial pipe is not allowed by the state?
I've not discussed that. I did ask him if there was something else to do, and he said that the alternative is a lot more expensive.
But this is the alternative, because the original design was to bore up under the creek. So he was trying to find, and I appreciate that he was looking at a more economic alternative, but the original price quote that we got was based on boring up under the creek. So I'm happy that he's looking at a cheaper way to do it, but we can't make out like this has been the plan all along and something's gone wrong. So, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, could we invite Mr. Kiker to our next meeting?
I would think that.
Allow him to give us an update, and he can respond to our specific questions.
Could you arrange for that?
I'll ask him.
All right.
Okay.
And
Thank
I
you.
think basically make him aware that what we're looking for is a completion date.
The completion date?
Yes. And in addition to the other questions we might have,
I will say this.
You can get a bunch of questions answered and still not get the one you're looking for.
Well, the one thing he has made clear is that he wants to move forward with the project. This was a government official who would not approve the project.
I understand.
It can't move forward without that approval.
Right.
And they're going through the next step. That was the gist of what I got today.
Okay, I understand. I'm just thinking if he knows what we're really looking for, he'll look in some other, or he'll start
I'll be glad
putting a little bit more urgency on it because of what he needs.
I'll be more than happy to send you that letter that he sent to them for their review. Also, it did seem like they acknowledged the receipt in Raleigh. They acknowledged the receipt of the letter, and I expect them to return, or when they approve it or disapprove it, I expect us to know exactly what's going to happen then.
All right.
All right. Well, any other commissioner concerns?
I had another one I just penciled in, but I'll save that one for later.
Well, I have one.
Yes, sir.
And actually, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we lost Chairman of the county commission in Union County, Mr. Stoney Russian. Outstanding gentleman, great Republican, a great citizen, a great county commissioner. And I just wanted to acknowledge his passing. He passed a week ago today. I was checking my computer early in the morning, and I saw his face, and my first response was, well, what has Stoney done now? And then when I read it, I was really sick to my stomach to learn of his passing. The second thing, Mr. Caller, you raised a point during one of our discussions about some special increases dating back to 2021. I want to say to the community and anyone else listening, I was aware of one special increase in that year, and that increase was to the county clerk. The recommendation was a $10,000 increase. It passed. I voted against it, and the record will show that because I didn't think it was warranted, and I thought that our county clerk was being well compensated. But I wasn't aware of any others. I don't know what your source of that information is, but I think it needs to be communicated to all the commissioners so that we know the situation.
Yes, sir. I was presented this by our attorney. It is from our finance director. That, like I said, there's 16 employees who, right here, according to this email, received raises. I'm not sure who granted the raises. The way I feel about it, this board is responsible for the county manager. If the county, and I'm not accusing Mr. Sothman because this was obviously before his time, but if it come from a prior county manager, I think that is a direct reflection of this board of commissioners because we are ultimately responsible for that individual. And so I go back to that is part of the transparency that we're trying to provide to all the citizens. That's why the COLA raise was in the budget proposal, was voted on by the commissioners, not done behind the scenes by a county manager. So that we're trying to be transparent with everything.
Mr. Carlo, what are the ranges? What's the maximum and what is the lowest?
The maximum was $18,424. And
that was to one employee?
One employee. The minimum appears to be about $1,337, according to this email I have here. And there were 16 employees that are on this list. And I'm sure that, I think Mr. Mims was CC'd on this as well. So I'm sure you can receive a copy of this.
Thank you. I'd love to see it.
Attorney Scott, why everybody else didn't get a copy?
I was asked by one person to give this information to him. Pardon?
No.
I'd be more I did not CC.
The county attorney did not CC him. The finance director did. And I did not receive this from the finance director. It is a copy of an email from the finance director.
But you got it from Attorney Force?
I got it from Attorney Force because I asked for it.
Okay.
Well, I thank you for bringing it to our attention, to my attention.
Yes, sir.
Because I wasn't aware of those increases.
So does it not need to be investigated to find out how the raises occurred and to where that process gets stopped since we don't know nothing about it?
I would agree that it needs to be investigated, but to my knowledge, somebody knows how it happened.
I think if you look back through the minutes of the meetings, if you've got the dates on those, you'll probably see it. But now, whether any detail, because some of those I think I remember. Well, I do remember the clerks.
But the clerk, we had open session, and all of us, whether we were for or against it, we had that right open. Yeah.
And I think there was 2 or 3 others, I believe, were the same. I can't say that to all of them, but I believe if we look back through the minutes of our meetings, you will probably find all of them.
I would like for the clerk to take that assignment to look back at the minutes of our meetings to see if those adjustments, those raises, those bonuses, whatever they were accounted for and approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Absolutely, I will.
Thank you.
Any more commissioner concerns? For my chairman's report, I would say, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, thank you.
Good deal. What? Covered a lot of territory. Yes, sir.
Thought he had a closed session item.
Which is on there, but must not have.
But she does on every time, just in case we need it.
Just in case.